All right, this is our first official night, so thank you for being here. And we do have a lot to test. Why does President Trump think he can pardon himself? And why would his attorney say the president could shoot James Comey and still not be indicted? We talked to Rudy Giuliani about exactly that. Joining us now, President Trump's attorney, Mr. Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Good to see you, sir.
How are you, Chris?
So you went to Jerusalem. Are you trying to invoke the power of the Holy Spirit in this interview?
Well, I just came from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and from the Wailing Wall, and I can't tell you what I prayed for or wished for, but maybe I'm trying to get a little help. We can use all the help we can get.
Well, let's see how it works for you right now. You're not here at home in the U.S., but you are big news, sir. And here's why. Let me ask you.
I am. All right.
Do you regret saying that the president could shoot Jim Comey and not be prosecuted?
I think I was asked the question, and I didn't say it. I didn't elect to say that. I said, very theoretically, the answer is the president can't be prosecuted for anything. There's a constitutional remedy for that. And, of course, that would be entirely ridiculous.
Right, but you could have made the point anyway.
It was a hypothetical that you would entertain in law school, and that's what I tried to say. That it's totally ridiculous. The president hasn't done anything wrong. There's no reason for any of this. But if you want to just answer a simple answer, not only that, Chris, almost every head of state has the same immunity. The head of state has to be out of office, then you can prosecute them.
No, I
if
get
they
the
did something
process.
Wrong.
I
Totally
get the process.
irrelevant in his case.
I get
he
the
didn't
process.
do anything wrong.
My question is, you could have made that example with any kind of hypothetical you wanted. You chose shooting Jim Comey.
I didn't. I don't think I chose it. I think that was the one that was suggested, but maybe I could have said, let's use another one.
Maybe. Well, I'm sure you'll get another chance. It's just, look, the last thing we need is more gasoline on the fire, right? More reason for people to have unduly hostile views of the people in our Department of Justice. And when you set something up like that, a lot of people start talking about it in terms that we don't need. You understand?
Well, okay, probably not the right analogy, although technically I believe correct, although there's dispute about it. And I think that was selected by somebody else, not me. And it's been said a few times that way to kind of give you the extreme view. But the reality is, when you say Department of Justice, the Department of Justice has not covered itself with glory in this situation. They conduct this spy investigation. It's over. They complain that they can't reveal the informant because the informant would be in jeopardy of losing his life. His name has been revealed. Are they protecting him? I don't know. I can't seem to get an answer to that.
Well,
so maybe that was hypocritical. I don't know.
Look, just to go down that road, because it seems to be a little bit of a red herring in your "we won't do an interview until" argument. But your guys, Gowdy and Nunes, they went there, they looked at the information, they came out crickets. Congressman Schiff went in there, he looked at it,
I don't know.
He said there's no wrongdoing. What is there to look at? Why forward this?
Well, here's what to look at: every single report. What was the basis of this? Why did they begin such an investigation? If they did, and I think Clapper used the word spying. He didn't like the word, but he said
he used it because that was the word you were using.
On the Russians. No, he said they put a spy in on the Russians.
No, he said spying, and I don't like that word. And Trump then said, Clapper said it like he owned the reality. That was disingenuous. But what I'm saying is Gowdy, Nunes.
I don't know if that, Chris, I don't think that's right. But in any event, here's the real point. The Dawn investigation's been over with for over a year. They concealed it completely, never revealed it to the president. There seems to be no reason not to reveal it to the president. That's why I want to read the documents. They can show me a good reason, I'll back off. But I'm not going to let my client go into a set-up situation where they conceal things for a year when there's no reason to do it. I'm sorry. I'm suspicious that if they concealed it for a year, there's something wrong. I'm suspicious about their claim of mortal jeopardy for the informant whose name they leaked.
These are arguments.
Why aren't they investigating?
Who leaked it? I'm saying these are arguments you've used before. People protect CIs
I didn't
all
leak
the
it.
time.
I'll take a lie detector test.
Oh, no, I'm not saying you
didn't leak it.
I'm not saying you leaked it.
I don't even know who the guy is.
I'm saying, well,
the only people that could have leaked it are the FBI,
right,
the Department of Justice, not Mueller. I don't know if he knows the guy.
But again, who leaked the information is one thing. Lucky for you, the media is providing that protection. Many of us know the identity. We're not putting it out there in deference to the person's protection. But that's not the issue.
No, it is the issue. The Wall Street, it's an issue as to what's going on in the top levels of the Justice Department.
But you had Gowdy and Nunes look at this stuff, and they said there was
Gowdy
no
and Nunes
wrongdoing.
are not somebody's lawyer. I don't know the last time they practiced criminal law. So don't tell me. I like both of them, but they're not the lawyers. They don't have the awesome responsibility of representing somebody who is being treated in a way that you wouldn't treat a common criminal. So don't tell me Gowdy and Nunes. I've got like more experience than the two of them by 10.
Okay, and you are the president's lawyer, fair point, so let me direct a question to you as such. Why do you believe that the White House team / the Trump legal team before Rudy Giuliani, why do you think they chose to lie about his role in drafting this statement about Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russians?
Chris, you think maybe somebody could have made a mistake?
Right. It's a lot of mistakes.
Why is it always
a lot of mistakes?
Why is it always that somebody? You think Jay Sekulow lied? Maybe he just got it wrong. Like I got a few things wrong at the beginning of the investigation. Meaning my knowledge that this is a complex investigation. First week or so, I got a few things wrong, and then it was clarified in a letter, and that's the final position.
Well,
that's the danger of going under oath. That you can make a mistake. Well, please let me finish.
Please go ahead.
You can make a mistake. You can make a mistake, and then if you want to, you can say it's a lie. But it was a mistake. I swear to God, it was a mistake. The guy made a mistake. And he corrected it.
I hear you.
Actually, had he testified under oath before they concluded a grand jury investigation, he'd have a right to recant it.
Sure.
You have a right to correct your testimony.
Absolutely, he would. And be careful about swearing to God when you're in Jerusalem. It may carry a little bit more weight right now with these answers that you give.
I think I heard a little. But yeah, I heard something up there.
A little thunderclap. Be careful. Let's play the sound of the evolution of this recollection. This isn't sound of you. Don't get upset. This is Jay Sekulow and Sarah Sanders. Let's play it.
That was written by Donald Trump Jr. and I'm sure in consultation with his lawyer. So that wasn't written by the president. The president didn't sign off on anything. The president was not involved in the drafting of the statement and did not issue the statement. It came from Donald Trump Jr.
He certainly didn't dictate, but, like I said, he weighed in, offered suggestion like any father would do.
And then in the letter, Sekulow says he did dictate it, but it was a reasonable thing. Somebody's lying, Rudy. Here's my argument why. Because it's not the kind of information that you would get wrong, that you wouldn't be privy to, that would change. Assuming that the president told them the truth about what was happening, somebody's lying about this, Rudy, and I don't understand why.
I don't think anybody's lying. I think a mistake was made at the very early stages of an investigation. I don't mean an investigation, very early stages of a representation by a lawyer, which happens all the time. So I don't think it's a significant fact. The most important thing is there was no testimony under oath to that effect. And then when a written statement was put in, it was completely accurate.
But you're only worried about the exposure to a crime.
Anyway.
I'm not saying it. Criminal liability is not the only bar here for a president of the United States and his team. Sarah Sanders is up there and says he had nothing to do with the writing of that. How'd she get that wrong? So Sekulow was wrong, she was wrong. How do these people not know?
I have no idea how they got it wrong, but they got it wrong. I don't think either one of them is ever going to deliberately lie. And I know the president isn't. He didn't do anything wrong. So why, a lot of this discussion, unfortunately, is like law school debating. The main fact is this began as an investigation of colluding with the Russians. He didn't collude with the Russians. Nobody has found any evidence that he did.
Well,
hey,
the second part's true.
And all this other stuff about obstruction and da-da-da-da. You can't obstruct a crime that was never committed. Come on, that's a really cheap way to try to prosecute.
Well, but that's also a very favorable hypothetical to you with what's going on right now. The investigation's not over. We don't know what they have. And while that letter states 100 different ways that the president can't obstruct justice, you know that there's absolutely no dispositive proof that a president can't obstruct justice. In fact, to the extent that we have had opinions, we have had Supreme Court findings, the opposite is the truth. That is common sense, if not just law. No man is above the law, including the president.
Chris, I didn't write the letter. So, and I agree with about 70, 80% of it. I disagree with two major parts of it. I don't think you get to the issue, the constitutional issue of whether you can subpoena a president, because there's an OLC ruling that binds Mueller, because Mueller doesn't exist other than as a creature of the Justice Department. He has no power, like he might have indicted Manafort incorrectly. We'll have to find out. Did he have proper authority? If he issued a subpoena, it would be immediately dismissed because the OLC says you can't subpoena a sitting president. That was the Clinton Justice Department. And it's been the law since then. The rule in the Justice Department.
But I thought that
so you don't
that
ever have to
ruling,
get to all this.
But I thought that ruling was qualified. That in order for there to be a subpoena, it refers back to that case, the Espy case, from when there was Bill Clinton, and that you need to have a special need. And that's maybe why Mueller reportedly told you guys in March, I have a special need to interview the president because of all these changing recollections, different stories, and lies on material matters and the need to develop intent, which I can't get through documents.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Espy case applies. But even if it did, this would be a very bad case for special need, because he's gotten 1.4 million documents. He's interviewed 28 witnesses, none of which we raised executive privilege. We could have raised executive privilege all over the place, as prior presidents have, and probably won on some of them, maybe not all. And finally, they have his explanations. They're all out there.
It's different than having him in a room because they change so much.
No, it isn't different unless you want to try to. No, it isn't different unless, as Judge Ellis pointed out, maybe, just maybe, they're trying to trap him into perjury.
Well, maybe he just changes his story. He changed his story about why he got rid of Comey,
maybe,
about what they knew about Flynn,
they will
about what happened with this response.
No, maybe what they'll do is what you did before when you decided that somebody was lying. Maybe somebody made a mistake. But if you come in with the idea that somebody's lying.
Your theory is everybody made a mistake. Sekulow made a mistake, who was his lawyer. Sarah Sanders made a mistake. Maybe the president made a mistake. Didn't he tell them what his role was in drafting a letter that happened? Maybe right in front of at least one of them?
But it was corrected. But it was corrected before any conclusions were drawn based on it.
I don't understand that. I don't understand it that way.
Immaterial.
They gave a false story and then wound up changing it over time. That's not the same thing as correcting a mistake necessarily.
No. All you know or I know is if you're willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt, which you're supposed to do under the law, right? The worst criminals get the benefit of the doubt. They gave a mistaken story, which was then corrected for the record. It's like I look at a transcript of a deposition, I get a chance to change it, because even the law is more tolerant than that.
Well, but again, it goes to one of the risks that seem to be pretty evident in this situation is about the ability of the president to tell the truth.
You know, Chris, you can't find a criminal lawyer that you can put on the screen, Democrat, Republican, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, that would ever let their client testify in a situation like this. The only reason we're having this debate at all, because he wants to. And you know that's true. I mean, a lot of people think you're just saying that. President Trump wants to be interviewed.
I hope that's true.
Because he believes he is innocent. He says to me, I didn't do anything wrong.
I hope that's true.
You didn't do anything wrong. But the world isn't that simple.
I hope that's true.
The criminal justice system isn't as fair as you think.
I hope that's true.
And these guys aren't so darn fair.
Well, look, I don't know about that. I think that this has been outwardly a very fair process to this point, and I hope you're right.
I'm not talking about Mueller. I'm talking about the Spygate investigation, which they concealed.
You had your guys go in there. They said there was nothing going on with Spygate, as you call it.
They're not my guys. Well, they're not my guys.
They're from the parties.
I don't know what document.
One of them has been very helpful to the president.
They're from my party.
The other one is from your party.
They're not my guys. I'm sorry. So if they let them see it, why don't they let me see it?
But let me ask you something.
Why don't they let the president see it?
Well, because he was under investigation. While they were actively looking at it, why would Rudy Giuliani back in the day ever go to the people he was looking at and tell them, I'm looking at you? You never did that.
Because the investigation is closed. It is now over with over a year. They should have told him as president of the United States.
He could find out with a phone call.
He's not a target.
If he picked up the phone, they would tell him whatever he wants. He's not doing that, Rudy, and you know why.
Chris, he's not the target of the investigation. He wasn't the target of that investigation.
I understand that, but I'm saying if he wanted to know what was happening.
So now you got to show him it.
He could just pick up the phone. They're not saying they won't. He could pick up the phone and get the answers.
I tell you what. I tell you what, we will make a gentleman's agreement.
Please.
That one of us will buy the other dinner if I'm wrong and they're not concealing this because they did some seriously damaging things to themselves.
Done.
Including Clapper, not necessarily Clapper, Brennan. I don't think Brennan could do something right if he tried.
Oh, come. All right, look, let me ask you something else. You've done a very good job of making this debate, at least on television, about why the president's exposure should be limited. But isn't the opposite argument equally, if not more compelling, that under the law and as a matter of political policy, the president should be more transparent? We shouldn't have to subpoena him. He shouldn't have to plead the Fifth. He is the highest elected official in the land. He should sit down and do the interview.
We haven't reached the question of pleading the Fifth with a whole other issue. But let's address it. Yes, if we lived in an ideal world, you're absolutely right. But we got 13 angry Democrats investigating a president who happens to be a Republican. One of them donated $35,000 to Hillary Clinton. Most prosecutors don't donate $35,000. And then most people are impartial enough in a role like that not to hire that person to investigate Donald Trump. Excuse me if I'm a little nervous.
Look, I know
Am I a fool?
I've heard
come
this
from New York
before,
like
but
you
one,
do.
the idea of painting the FBI as a Democrat institution really flies in the
But
face
the
of
FBI isn't
everything I've
running
known
this.
for 20 years in this business.
F-
All right, and remember, Jim Comey didn't talk about Trump and talked about Hillary Clinton right at the end of the race. So I don't know how strong. We'll wait for the Inspector General report to come out, and we'll look at it. But let me ask you about
Comey?
Yeah, and everything else.
About Comey?
And everything else that the IG is looking at.
I doubt.
Let's wait for that.
I doubt if it's going to support. I think Comey's credibility is
Well,
completely
we'll see.
shot, and I think the last nail in the coffin is going to be that report.
We'll
But
see.
in any event, all I have to know about my former assistant U.S. attorney is that he disgraced himself when he leaked that memo illegally.
Well, look,
and one of his agents would be prosecuted for that. And would be in jail right now.
That is, you're entitled to your opinion. Let's see what the IG report shows. Let me ask you something else. The president says, I absolutely can pardon myself. You know that if we were looking at it in an absolute sense, he absolutely could not, because a man cannot be their own judge. There is no Supreme Court precedent. There is no advisory opinion from any agency that goes near it. Why would you let your client offer up that kind of suggestion? Senator Grassley says, boy, oh boy, is that crazy? And if he were my lawyer, listen to what he says.
If I were president of the United States and I had a lawyer that told me I could pardon myself, I think I'd hire a new lawyer.
You don't think the president can pardon himself. You don't think it's right, and you don't think it's right under the law. Be honest.
I can tell you as a lawyer, the pardon power is complete, and there is no limitation on it. Would somebody impose a practical limitation on it? Absolutely.
Section 2 puts a limit on it.
The practical limitation is it would be suicide to pardon yourself.
That's the political
Absolute
limitation.
suicide.
That's the political limitation.
You'll never reach it.
The practical one is you don't pardon in the case of an impeachment, and that's what he would be doing.
It's not going to happen.
Good.
And pardon doesn't get you off impeachment. So you can't pardon yourself from an impeachment.
Well,
so pardoning is not. He's not going to pardon himself. If you want to have a nice issue, about this very, very hypothetical point, is that power so broad? There's nothing that says yes, and there's nothing that says no. Nobody ever thought of it.
Well,
Maybe that's a good argument. Maybe it's a good argument that he can't.
I think if it were a law school exam, you would want to come down on the idea of no, he can't, based on what we know about the law and justice.
Exam,
but the president is saying he can.
I wouldn't do that.
If he's not going to do it,
if it was a law school exam, Chris, if it was a law school exam, I would say this: the pardon power is complete. Nothing in the Constitution says that he can't pardon himself. Nothing in the Constitution says that he can pardon himself.
Right.
So if a law school exam, I'd give you an A if you said it's an open question. If you came down on either side of it, I'd give you an F.
Well, but the president came down on one side of it, so he gets an F.
He's not a lawyer.
Oh, come on. He's the president of the United States.
He's not a lawyer. He is not a lawyer.
He says experts tell me I have absolute authority to pardon myself. Another bad recollection?
Bet there are. No, there are lawyers who believe that. There are lawyers who believe the opposite.
An absolute ability to do it. And why is he bringing it up if he'll never do it?
I think to probably illustrate and create the discussion about how complete the pardon power is. He hasn't done a Mark Rich. I mean, you want to talk about pardons that stink up the whole system of justice. It's Bill Clinton's pardon of Mark Rich.
Good
My
segue.
God.
Good
I used to
segue.
be in charge of the pardon attorney's office.
I know you did. I know
used
you
to be
did.
in charge of the pardon attorney's office.
I know you did.
And the reality is the pardons he's given so far are highly justifiable.
Rudy
Well
Giuliani
within
would
his power.
pardon not within his power. Let's talk about justifiable. We know he can do it. He can pardon a ham sandwich if he wants to. Joe Arpaio, Scooter Libby, Dinesh D'Souza, maybe even Martha Stewart. Rudy Giuliani pardons these people.
I recommended pardons, probably in worst cases like that, to Ronald Reagan.
Would you
I think
pardon
Ronald
all these
Reagan
people?
Did over 900 pardons. I would, each one of them, yes. Martha Stewart's prosecution by Jim Comey was a publicity stunt. Never would have happened if it wasn't Martha Stewart. You don't indict on a trapped perjury case where the person didn't commit the underlying crime. That's a damn game to get yourself in the newspapers, which may have been the beginning of the Jim Comey who eventually illegally leaked the memo. Arpaio, I don't know the case that well, except it seemed to me it was highly political, as was Souza. And Scooter Libby had already been commuted. That investigation is completely wacko because they knew who the leak was when they started the investigation.
Rudy.
So the investigation existed for the purpose of creating perjury on somebody.
Rudy.
And maybe, just maybe, that's what Mueller is doing.
Rudy, Arpaio openly flouted the law on purpose, even when he was told not to. Dinesh D'Souza signed a plea agreement admitting that he broke the law, admitting that he lied. Martha Stewart, I covered every day of that trial. She was a convicted liar. It seems like you want to send the message, lying is okay. Lying is okay sometimes. That's why we're pardoning these people.
Pardons are perfectly appropriate. It sure beats the terrorists that Clinton pardoned.
That's our new standard? Anybody's better than a terrorist?
These are political cases. I mean, there are law review articles being written about how highly politicized the criminal justice system has become.
Dinesh D'Souza signed an admission of guilt, Rudy.
Oh, but the only reason he was prosecuted for a situation, campaign finance, that usually results in a fine to somebody that isn't a conservative activist.
They tried to put on evidence that this was selective prosecution. It didn't fly. It didn't fly then. Why does it fly now?
Prosecution, because pardon is different than the ability to get evidence in. Selective prosecution is an extraordinarily difficult thing to really use as a defense. It almost never works, even though it might be justifiable. And the pardon power allows the president, if people did something that's marginal, and I would say each one of these crimes is marginal. Martha Stewart couldn't be prosecuted for insider trading, so they prosecuted her for perjury. I mean, you do that with Frank Costello, who used to be the head of the mafia, by the way. I'm getting older. But she's not the head of the mafia. The lack of proportion should have been a warning that there's something wrong.
They offered her a deal. She didn't take it.
That's the same guy that leaked illegally.
They offered her a deal. She kicked them out of her office, figuratively and almost literally. She lied. They went to trial. She lost. Dinesh D'Souza admitted that he lied and broke the law. Scooter Libby lied. Joe Arpaio flouted the justice system. I can't believe Rudy Giuliani would pardon these people.
Everybody who's pardoned, the only reason you get pardoned is you committed a crime. A pardon doesn't exist to wipe away the crime.
You could pardon even before he's adjudicated or she's adjudicated. He's choosing to do this. He's choosing to do this now, and it seems that the president wants to send a message. I'm doing this early on during an investigation where maybe lying will become a commodity.
Chris, every single one of these cases at the time was highly controversial. I can give you Wall Street Journal editorials about each one of them, including the one with Martha Stewart in particular, which they saw as a real perversion of justice because she was trapped into perjury. Scooter Libby, the investigation never should have taken place. They should have moved to have that case dismissed on the grounds that if there was perjury, it was immaterial. They had caught, it would be like conducting a murder investigation after you caught the murderer, knew who he was, but didn't tell anybody, which sounds a little bit like Spygate, but, I won't.
Rudy.
That'll take us the rest of the night.
Let me ask you something else while I have you, okay? Yeah. Because you are putting yourself out there on this case. You don't need to do this. You're plenty busy, as anybody who knows you understands, but you're doing this. And you're at Yankee Stadium the other night. You get booed at Yankee Stadium. I've never heard that happen before. It certainly wouldn't have happened before you got tangled up in this. You got a Yankee ring on right now.
See my ring?
You're a huge
See my
Yankee
ring
fan.
right there?
People in New York love you. I'm a Yankee fan. You're not going to get any testing on me from that.
They will boo it.
But that is only happening because of this. Are you worried about your legacy that the mayor of America, the man who carried our hearts through 9/11, is now tangled up in saying it's okay to pardon people like Dinesh D'Souza?
Every night I stay up all night worried about that. No, I have a clear conscience. I'm doing my job as a lawyer. This is what I know how to do.
You're more than just a lawyer, though, Rudy Giuliani. You're more than just a lawyer.
But I am a lawyer, and it's my job to defend my client. I am proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud of my client. He has done nothing wrong. And this is a horrible, not only a horrible perversion of justice, this has got to come to an end, this pursuit of presidents. I thought the impeachment of President Clinton was terribly wrong, even though my party did it. I thought it was entirely political. And you have to stop this. Look, we do a lot of fighting politically, but I know the power of the criminal justice system, and it should not be used in these political situations.
Well, that's fine. Then tell your client to stop saying that all the Clintons need to be investigated by a special counsel if it's so bad. You know, if you want something to stop, usually you've got to be the change you want to see. We don't get a lot of that from this White House.
I think if you destroy, let's not go over the Clinton case again. 34,000 emails.
I don't want to keep you from the Holy Land that long. For you to come to us from Jerusalem, I appreciate it. Say a prayer for all of us while you're over there.
After this, I have to go to early mass now.
Yeah, you better. You better. Take care, sir.
I'll see you in New York next week, and good luck with the new show, Chris.
Thank you for being my first guest. I do, too. I think it's important for people.
I think everybody on the air should know that we're friends.
Look, it's never come.
And this is what happens at an Italian Thanksgiving dinner.
It never comes from a bad place. I'm testing power because the people need to hear it. And the next dinner's on you. That's my guess. Be well, Rudy Giuliani. Thank you.
I think it's on you. Okay, take care.